Hey everybody, good morning. This is Carpo again, and this is like part 3 of my series here. I've been reading Words to Live By. Sometimes I start a series and I just lose interest in it, but this one I'd really like to read. It's a very small book, so I've been reading little parts of it, and it's basically a quote followed by an explanation of why that quote's helped a person. So for this one, it's called On Having Fun by Frederick Loomis, doctor turned author. And the quote that he chose was, "Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think." I mentioned this quote to someone who, in a comment the other day, because it stuck with me. And it's one of those quotes that you have to think about for a minute, but you can pretty much grasp offhand, you know. You got to grab it while it's there. And it goes on to tell a story. It's a Chinese proverb, but the story of the guy ends up telling a story. He's a doctor, and he receives this letter from a lady who had been a patient in the hospital he worked at 2 years before. She said, "I know you don't know me, I know you don't remember me, but she remembered hearing one of the nurses say, 'Oh, a doctor here has the same name as you.'" And so anyway, he came into her room one night and sat by her bedside and just held her hand and stuff, didn't talk or anything. She remembered that, and she tracked him down years later. And he said he just couldn't get that out of his mind. And something in the letter basically told him, enjoy yourself, it's later than you think. It was in the letter she sent. She said she hadn't thought of him when she read a plaque on like a Chinese wall somewhere in a temple or something. And so that really stuck with him. And he said he went on a vacation after that. And I'd like to read the whole thing, it's just kind of long. He went on vacation after that, and said when he came back to town, everything was the same as he left it. The patients had gotten well without his help. New patients had come and gone. And everybody was doing just fine. And I think that's very important to remember, that we need to make time for ourselves. And we forget often that we have to break away from this monotony of day-to-day life and set aside time for ourselves, and don't expect that without us the world's going to stop going, because when we disappear the world goes on. So that was kind of the meaning behind that. So just to get with it and enjoy yourself. And I'd like to read one more, because this one I haven't read the whole thing yet. I'm reading these as I go, so you're kind of reading them with me. This one's called Be Happy by Lloyd Morris, author of Postscript to Yesterday. And the quote he chose was, "The days that make us happy make us wise." And he goes on to say, "When I first read this line by England's poet laureate, it startled me. What did Masefield mean? Without thinking about it much, I had always assumed that the opposite was true. But his sober assurance was arresting. I could not forget it. Finally, I seemed to grasp his meaning and realized that here was a profound observation. The wisdom that happiness makes possible lies in clear perception, not fogged by anxiety or dimmed by despair and boredom, and without the blind spots caused by fear. Active happiness, not mere satisfaction or contentment, often comes suddenly, like an April shower or the unfolding of a bud. Then you discover what kind of wisdom has accompanied it. The grass is greener. Bird songs are sweeter. The shortcomings of your friends are more understandable and more forgivable. Happiness is like a pair of eyeglasses correcting your spiritual vision. Nor are the insights of happiness limited to what is near or around you. Unhappy, with your thoughts turned in upon your emotional woes, your vision is cut short as though by a wall. Happy, the wall crumbles. The long vista is there for the seeing, the ground at your feet, the world about you, people, thoughts, emotions, pressures, are now fitted into the larger scene. Everything assumes a fairer proportion, and here is the beginning of wisdom." I can't add much to that. I can't add anything to that. I totally agree with every word. It's often that we think that fear is the basis of our wisdom, that the misgivings and trials and errors are how we learn. They say you don't learn if you don't make mistakes, which is true. We do learn from that. But the greatest wisdom lies in the things that make us happy. Because when you learn which things make you unhappy, that makes you wise in the sense of which things to avoid. When you find it in being happy, you start to seek things which make you happy, and you don't avoid them. So the greater wisdom comes with understanding the greater things. I see around me today people dwelling on some of the most negative aspects to life, and it gets me down sometimes because I see how it affects perceptions as well as how it affects behaviors. But how it affects actions is, I think, the most important one to realize, because many of the decisions that are made are based on improper information, but many more of the decisions are based on either fear, anger, jealousy, hatred, which I see them as all just one emotion, the negative. But when I say negative emotion, I don't mean that these emotions should not be utilized, because I'm not that shallow. There's no way to conquer fear, animosity, hatred. It's around you everywhere you go, and the only way to opt out is to opt out of society. And even then, the decisions the society makes affects the land that you live on, the food that you eat, and at the very least, the air that you breathe. There's one consideration. We can step away from society and go our own way, go out and live in the hills, but you're still breathing the same air. There's no escape from the world that we've created, and I don't mean that in a negative way. There are many negative things we need to work out, but for the most part, I see things as just the way they are. And there's not a lot we can do to change it, except to take action in the things that we know are true and that we think are true, but not to the point where we're pushing our views on others. And when a majority of people agree on something, we put it into action, and we have a democracy. I mean, this is the best we can do. But in the individual democracy, you're going to have positives and negatives, and you're going to have to make the decision in your own court, in your own mind, as to which feelings you're going to allow to flourish. And I would avoid those feelings which bring anger, guilt, resentment, fear. Anyway, I think I put more of my own personal taste on this than the actual words to live by, but you know, we all learn from it. And when I was going to read the whole book and then just read parts I liked, but I thought, no, it'd be more fun to just read it to everybody, because we all gain from it at the same time. I've read bits and pieces. But anyway, hope everyone's doing well today, and namaste.